everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. The ARC of California is thrilled to offer Caring Futures, a proven resource program dedicated to supporting caregivers and family members of adults with disabilities. Understanding the unique challenges faced by family caregivers as they age, Caring Futures offers critical planning assistance, resources, and a supportive community. Caring Conversations is just one part of Caring Futures program here at the ARC of California. We will share more about our other offerings by Caring Futures at the end of today's conversation, so please stay tuned. As you see, we have ASL interpretation for our discussion today. You can turn on closed captioning by clicking the button in the bar below. At the end of today's conversation, there will be a question and answer session. At that time, we'll invite you to raise your hand or type your question in the Q&A to ask our guests directly. Hello, everyone. My name is Felisa Strickland. I am a proud sole parent caregiver to my daughter, Lily. Lily is 24 years old. She has a diagnosis of cerebral palsy, autism, epilepsy, and IDD, and she requires full-time care. We enjoy our life and live in Santa Barbara, California. Alongside full-time caregiver, I am a strong advocate for individuals with disabilities. I serve as a board member for the ARC of California, as well as Alpha Resource Center of Santa Barbara. I also participate on many committees and getting involved with fundraisers and advocacy projects in our community. As a Caring Futures instructor and parent educator, I am thrilled to be here for this important conversation with you and our special guests. Today's topic is Caregiver Perspective on Future Planning. I'm excited to welcome three amazing women joining us for today's Caring Conversation. Nancy Castro, Sheila James, and Yvette Ensign are all parent caregivers, advocates, and have taken Caring Futures classes. It is my pleasure to introduce you to each of them. Nancy and her husband Javier have 5 grown children, 3 daughters and 2 sons. After years of searching for the right place to raise their family, in 1998 they built their home in Santa Barbara. They were introduced to Alpha Resource Center in 2014. Their daughter Raquel, at 35 years old, has never been diagnosed, and we continue to search for answers while developing the best life plan to support her. Alpha has been a great fit for her as she lives at home and attends their day and social programs. Nancy has worked on various philanthropies and is proud to be associated with the Assistance League of Santa Barbara, Young Life, Calvary Chapel Santa Barbara, Women's Fund of Santa Barbara, and Alpha Resource Center for over 25 years. She enjoys beach walks, hiking, traveling, gardening, and spending time with family. She is honored to work alongside other families to make life better for all. Sheila is devoted to finding joy in everyday life. Being the mother of Quinn set her on that spiritual practice 37 years ago. Though she retired as an attorney and mediator in 2019, Sheila will always be an advocate for individuals with disabilities and their caregivers. In 1998, she founded a program of conductive education in Claremont, California, to serve students with neuromotor disabilities operating within the local school district until the pandemic. Conductibility recently became a private school, and she remains on its board of directors. Sheila is grateful to report that her son Quinn, who has cerebral palsy and is legally blind, has been living on his own with 24/7 care since 2011. He is a working artist whose work can be seen at qkstudio.org. Sheila is vice president and CFO of his business, QK Studio. Sheila loves travel, books, movies, theater, and her rescue dog, Jojo. She offers much gratitude always to Quinn for his generosity in allowing her to share stories of his life and their life together. Yvette is a full-time parent caregiver to her adult son, Jared. Jared is 24 years old and has an anoxic brain injury and quadriplegia. Her son, Jared, requires one-to-one support for most all daily living activities, needing constant supervision for safety and well-being. Yvette provides direct care, advocacy, and support for Jared and her family. Whenever possible, Yvette joins other parent mentors to offer support and learn about what other families in her community are going through. She enjoys learning from other parents and seizes opportunities to grow and expand her knowledge as a caregiving mom. She and her family live in Santa Barbara, California. Without further ado, please welcome Nancy, Sheila, and Yvette. Good morning, ladies. Thank you so much for being here.
Good
So
morning.
excited for this conversation with all three of you.
Thank you. Good morning.
There's no better expert on what we need as parents than parents, right? So I'm so glad that we've got this opportunity to share a little bit about each of your stories and what your future planning and self-care routines look like. So I'm going to start with you, Nancy. Let's tell me a little bit about your life with Raquel, being her mom and as she's grown up and to be an adult, what that future planning journey looks like for your family.
Wow, where do I start? My mind goes back to when she was smaller, of course, and those years were difficult. We didn't have very many answers. We kind of fumbled through things. She's never been diagnosed, so we continue to look for answers in that regard. Um, and I had a very wise doctor once tell me, um, if you knew what she had, if you had a name, could put a name to it, would you do anything different? And that kind of stuck with me because the answer was, of course, no. We do what we can at the time and we do the best that we can. But she's grown up to be quite a gal. She's grown up, and of course, her needs have grown as well. She is matured into a very vibrant, friendly, very social young lady. And we're very happy about that. We're very proud of her. But also her needs change. So we also, that poses new problems for us as well along the way. It's our journey. And so the question is, how do we accommodate that? How do we change with her? And I think trying to accommodate her ever-changing interests, her dreams, and put them into a reality. And I think planning for her future in classes such as what you are providing through ARC are crucial in that, because it provides a roadmap to answer a lot of the questions that we have as parents. It's a difficult job. We do it out of love and respect for our grown children, but having a roadmap helps. It helps to answer questions that we may not even think of at the time. And what I've learned most informative has been through other parents who are walking alongside their children as well. So it's very informative. I can't say enough about that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for giving us a little bit of background on that and what led you to wanting to take the futures now. I love that you put in her changing needs and her changing interests, right? I mean, that's so important that we consider, as parents, obviously we want what's best for our kids, and we feel that weight and responsibility of planning that future for them because they need help with it, right? But we also want that experience to be one that they desire, not
Absolutely.
just what we think is best and what we want for them. We want them to enjoy their life and have a part in planning it.
Right.
Were there any specific things that in the class when you took the Futurists now that stood out to you that helped you create some space for that when considering what Raquel might want for her future?
Well, being able to sit with her and ask her those crucial questions was really interesting as she's grown through the years, and just hearing her responses. They're not eloquent, she doesn't have a huge vocabulary, but they were simplified, and she was able to express her interests or her disinterest in things. So that was helpful. I think the most important thing was that we felt that our planning was sufficient at the time, and we quickly realized it was not. There were some issues that we needed to address, questions that we needed to ask of her as well as of ourselves. What I loved, it just was very specific in the questions that were answered, that were asked for us to answer. It it's wonderful because it gives you the opportunity to add as you can, to go along at a pace that is specific to your needs as a family. You can stop and start whenever you like. And it was very, very easy to do. So I like that. So it wasn't as daunting as it sounded.
Yeah, I think that was my experience as well. Like, I really liked the fact that there was a workbook for me as the parent, and there was a workbook for Lily. And while the topics were similar, I mean, obviously they were the same topic, but the questions were phrased differently, right? For you as the parent, and then your adult child with a disability, their workbook looked a little bit different. And it was kind of interesting to be able to compare the two, right? After you know, for example, the circle of support, that's a section in the curriculum. And it was interesting to see how my circle of support for her looked a little bit different than who she would have chosen for her circle of support, right? But yeah, it's definitely a journey, but being able to take your time and plan it and have that roadmap, really good stuff. Thank you, Nancy, for sharing that. Any last thoughts that you might want to add?
Um, I just wanted to emphasize that future planning is crucial. It's something that we as parents, um, we understand that one day we may pass before our children. And so if you address some of these issues now before that happens, it would help all people involved. She has siblings who are very, very involved in her life, and I hope that it will help them if that day comes, if and when that day comes. And it may not be perfect, it may be ever changing, but it will be a start. And that was what I wanted to emphasize. Just start. And as a side note, for me, always save your work on these sites. I goofed and I didn't save one time, so um, I'll have to go back and they'll probably be a little different. But yeah, that's one thing I learned. It's like, whoops, you didn't save that day. So
Yeah, no, that's definitely good. We've got so many things on our plate. It can be hard to remember what that experience looked like the last time, right? Yeah,
yeah.
well, thank you so much, Nancy, for sharing that. Sheila, I'm particularly interested in your story as it relates to Quinn's independence and living on his own and working and all that comes with that. When I hear stories like Quinn's, I'm really encouraged. Could you tell us a little bit about that and your life with Quinn and how you guys got to this place?
Sure, happy to. Um, okay, so you saw the photo of Quinn. He has cerebral palsy. He uses a power wheelchair. He needs help with all of his, daily needs. Um, in 2008, I became a single parent through divorce. And it took me about 3 years to accept the fact that, maybe I will be a single parent raising my son for the rest of his life in my home, and that'll be okay. Now, that wasn't an easy conclusion for me to come to, I have to admit. All right. But I did. I was feeling like really content, and we were having a good life together. In 2011, we're watching TV, and then Quinn apparently has been thinking deeply about his independence. He was 23 at the time. And he said, Mom, I've been thinking you're not getting any younger. And I want to move out and take control of my life before something happens to you. Well, okay. So I'm very grateful because I really, like, all my fear buttons inside my head were going off and kind of like exploding because I had no idea how this would happen. But on the outside, I was just curious. So I wanted to hear more, and I was blown away by the fact that he'd really been thinking about this. And so, again, doing my inner work in order to keep my heart open and not be ruled by fear, my fear, um, I said, okay, let's let's go for it. So, which made him very happy. So Quinn is verbal, right? And he's able to communicate. right? And able to communicate. So that helped me. We contacted the regional center, contacted his service coordinator at the regional center. And the first thing that individual said to me, to us was, Quinn, you probably should get involved with the regional center so they can get to know you, because there's like 13,000 clients. And even though they do their best for everyone, if they know you, it helps. So Quinn took that to heart and he joined the board of directors. And so, which was a really good move because it made a difference. And so that's one thing that I want to say is I think it helps to be involved in your regional center or in the agencies. We're all activists here and we're involved. In my mind, when he said that, I was thinking, oh my God, one more thing. Are you kidding me? I can't add another layer. And that's how it is often in my mind. It's like I feel like I can't do more. And then I'm weighing, though, will the benefit to Quinn outweigh the extra work maybe that will be required? And I would say 90% of the time the answer was yes. And this is definitely one of those times. He served on the board for 6 years. I've served on the board for 5 years, right? I retired in 2022. Okay, so they said it's going to take 2 to 3 months. It ended up taking 8 months. It just took longer. And, then we had to find an agency because it was 24/7 supported living, right? An agency who would do that. There's not a lot of them that do 24/7. Just, right? Just important to know. And then had to find a place for him to live. When you have someone who uses a power wheelchair, that really becomes difficult. And we managed to find a condo that seemed to have wide enough doorways and all of that. Okay, so he moved out. He had a roommate. We had 4 male staff. That's how it started. So I'm just telling you, there's all these different iterations. All right, Felisa, in terms of what his living looked like. Roommate, staff in a condo. That lasted for 2 years. The condo got so banged up. We owed so much money after at the end of that 2-year period. It was ridiculous. Okay. So what I did was I moved out of our house that I had been living in with him because it was fully accessible, right? The bathroom, everything. I went into an apartment, which was a lot easier for me, and he moved in to the house, my house. And that was in 2013. And his roommate situation declined. The roommate got married. He had 2 kids. So then it seemed like it was his house and not Quinn's house. So then the roommate left. And then we started getting 24-hour shift people in. All right. And that worked good because transitions, he has a lot of anxiety. So transitions were very hard for him. He went from having all male staff to wanting female staff because they are more nurturing and they cook better. Okay. So, like all right. It is a couple of things. It's a lot of work to have someone live on their own, right? That needs the 24/7 care. It is. And I need to live nearby because, first of all, it alleviates his anxiety, but also caregivers call out at the last minute. And the agency, when we had an agency, didn't have staff to cover. So I'd have to go over. Quinn has had self-determination since last year. That's helped his confidence, his feeling more settled because he's more control. It's a lot more work for me because we're co-employers. So I'm managing, right? I'm managing the staff. It gives us more flexibility, but it's also more work. All right. So that's kind of that. I had some elderly relatives die who had no children. They loved Quinn. They wanted him to have housing security. So I'm just, going to be transparent here and say that they provided money so that we could buy a single-story condo for Quinn and renovate it. So I'm going to just acknowledge my privilege and being very, very lucky to do that because housing is so expensive. We live in Claremont, which is outside. It's LA County, East End. But all of Southern California, all of California, we know is expensive. So very, very fortunate there. I've had other friends who have talked about housing vouchers. I have other friends who rent houses for their children. So, but that's our situation. Coexisting with that, then Quinn decided after a period of time that he wanted, he wanted to work. So he had gone to community college, right? He graduated high school in 2006, went to community college. When he got done with community college was about the time when he moved out, around 2011. Took him 5 years, right? Took longer to go through that. The reason why he was able to go to community college, I'm going to give props to Easter Seals, who provided a coach for him at school. So I'm just naming some organizations that really helped us, right? And then after that, he tried to get a job. Department of Rehab wasn't helpful for us. It was hard for him because he had so many needs to get supported employment. So fortunately, we heard from Tierra del Sol, which had a day program for artists to learn how to become an artist. So he was a full-time artist at their program from 2011 to December of 2016 when he decided he'd like to leave and have his own business. So he got his own business, right? QK
That's
Studio.
yeah, what an amazing, you have had to be so, I mean, to facilitate his desire to want to move out, you've had to get very creative, and you've used your resources well. What an amazing story for him. But tell me a little bit about why, because you've taken a lot of steps to ensure that future planning is in place for Quinn, and you still chose to take the Future is Now class. Tell me a little bit about that, because a lot of the class pertains to helping families access education, employment, housing, and how to get started on those paths. So tell me a little bit about that for your situation with Quinn, and why it was why it intrigued you to want to take Future is Now.
Sure. Okay, Quinn's 37. So he's usually at the leading edge of his of people that we know who have children with disabilities. So a lot of it's been kind of lonely for me and trying to figure it out. And so the people that I'm around, and really I have no judgment, I'm just going to say this, did not want to talk about the future, did not want to talk about the possibility of death or dying. And as you heard from my story in 2011, Quinn was already bringing it up if something should happen to you. And I'm very aware as I get older that really, right, it could happen at any time. And I do have things in place, but I'm managing all of it. So that's why I took future, Karen, because it's like, first of all, I need to be around other parents who understand, who are going through this, that I can have conversations with and get ideas from for the future, Quinn's future without me, because it's going to take at least 6 people to do what I do. I don't expect any one person. Quinn doesn't have siblings. He has 2 stepbrothers who are similar. One lives in DC, one's in England. So they are open to doing the financial stuff, right? I still don't have, and he has his team right now, the caregivers, but we know that caregiving can
Yes.
change at a moment's notice. So I had a lot of fear. Okay. So I get motivated by fear. And and so I'm still figuring it out. Here's what I loved about Future Care, the program, Caring Futures. First of all, I wish I had known about it even a year ago, right? Sooner, because it's been invaluable, because it provides templates. Templates are so helpful to me. You use the word roadmap, Nancy, and it's like, just tell me, like, give me some ideas that are concrete, what I can do. What are some questions I can ask? Help direct me. And so it's been really, really helpful. And I have to go back. I have to go back and change a lot of things that I've had in place because it's like 10 years old. Quinn's changed. I've changed. The people in the circle have changed. Um, and like Nancy, like you also said, and Felicia, you say, we learn the most. I learned the most from other parents. So the parents who led my Caring Futures program had a 54-year-old daughter. And it's like, oh my God, someone who's like that far ahead of me. And then their solution was one I had never, like, it was very creative. And anyway, I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not exaggerating. I have felt less alone. I
Oh,
really have met
so
some
glad.
wonderful parents, and we're in conversation outside of the class now. And we're exchanging ideas, and I'm taking notes, and I'm watching other programs so I can learn. Um, because I'm usually, I just want to say this. I don't mean to sound like, I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but because Quinn's 37, I'm usually the one that's teaching people, showing them the way. But I need way showers too, right? And so Caring Futures really helped provide that for me and continues to provide that for me. I'm still working on the workbook, but I've got it organized in a notebook, which is brilliant for me, to do that because I'm actually not a very organized person. So it's really helpful for me. And like Nancy said, what I learned is that who Quinn perceives to be important in his life is actually some of the people are different than who I see. And I really have to be paying attention as he ages, really what he wants his life to look like. And we're very open. We talk about my dying, my not being here. Um, yeah. So
Sheila, thank you so much. What a wonderful
yeah.
story. Thank you for sharing all the ins and outs of how you got there with him and how you're still just every day, doing what we do. And you made some really good points about how things are ever changing. And that we say it takes a village. I feel like sometimes it's more like an army. Like we need a lot to get through the day to day in our situations. But as the good thing is we're not in it alone. We do have each other. And I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. Caring Futures does offer a wonderful community. In those classes, you can meet other parents, and we do have, other resources as well. So thank you for sharing your special story with Caring Futures and with Quinn. I'm just, that's so touching.
Thank
Um,
you for that.
Yvette, I want to move into your story a
Mhm.
little bit before we get into questions overall. So tell us a little bit about your caregiving journey with Jared.
Well, thank you for having me. Wow, you guys are all so inspiring. So that's such a joy and pleasure to be here. My journey with Jared. So Jared now is 23 years old. He's actually going to be 24 years old. He sustained an acquired brain injury, an oxic brain injury, which also has, he does have quadriplegia, so he does need help with all of his daily living. And I am home with him, primarily with him, to do all that caregiving. Um, and I just wanted to, things, because it is an acquired, it happened 8 years ago now, 7 years ago. And so we're still learning. We're learning so much from all the parents that we become involved with. Like, I just feel like this is just such an amazing platform and place to go and be and feel supported. And so it's very encouraging, it's very inspiring. And so, um, along this journey, I'm learning a lot about Jared's needs and how they do continue to change, and how Jared is verbal. He is able to say, like, we're in that process now of him saying he wants one day to move out. And for me, I'm like, whoa, so the Caring Futures is so important to embrace, because just in the past year, actually, um, my husband had to have open heart surgery, and then I had to have major surgery. And so the real conversation came up about, oh, wow, we really do need to have those conversations about, wow, what are we going to do in the future? What is in the future for Jared as he's continuing to um, know what his needs are, or realize what he wants. And, he's wanting to dictate what he wants. And I'm trying to pull the reins back and go, well, it's a very confusing, very hard, be in the middle. Um, Maybe we should give him that autonomy, give him that independence. And so we're in the middle of that right now. Um, and it's, this past year, that's what we've been going through. And, everybody's situation, I know is so different. And I really enjoy hearing. I'm getting so much information about how we can continue to look forward. And there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? And
Yeah.
there are other ways, there are different ways. And, like Sheila was sharing, I'm like, oh, wow, that's an option. um, and knowing that you're not alone, this is so amazing to have this support here. But we continue to go through this journey together and trying to find out ways to support Jared and his future, while we take care of our health, right? So
Well, that's what I
um,
was just going to say. I mean, doing the day-to-day, you and I do a lot of hands-on caregiving. Lily also lives with me, and most of the time it's me providing her care. That hands-on day-to-day support can be extremely taxing and make it hard to take care of yourself. I know that you happen to have just recently taken the Self-Care Matters class that's offered by Caring Futures. Tell me a little bit about what that looked like for you and what your experience was, and if it changed your approach to self-care.
yes, thank you. Absolutely. Wow, what an absolute joy to have that opportunity. Um, Taking the class helped me recognize the importance of self-care. And something is better than nothing. It could be something little, it could be something big, and it looks different for everybody, right? I mean, sometimes for people it can be 5 minutes, for some people it can be an hour. um, and for me, when it really enabled me, it empowered me. I felt like it empowered me to take this class, to say, Yvette, mom, caregiver, all those hats, it's okay to take this time for you. Um, and I say this because I think all moms are, right. We're mama bears, and what like to call it. But it's okay to take that time to be selfish for yourself. And I've always felt like nobody else. Just started realizing, why isn't somebody doing this for me? Well, because I need to do this for me. I need to take this time for me, right? This is so important. This is like, so I really needed to embrace that. I really needed to embrace that this is okay. It's okay to take that time, go in your room, close the door, walk outside, because I started to isolate, and I got very comfortable with my isolation, being home and not leaving the home at all. And so I thought, let me go for a drive. Okay, I can go to the drive, I can go for a drive to the park, down the street, whatever it is. Um, I found a bookstore. So I start just simple little things. And I started doing word puzzles. I got a book. I'm like, okay, I'll try this out. I'll see if I can do it. But boy, what a great feeling it was. I started setting timers on my Alexa and saying, self-care matters. I need to do this. So it was like ding, 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 the light went on, right? They say if you do something for 30 days, it becomes a habit. So this could be a really good thing for me.
It sounds like you're well on your way. I'm really excited to hear that, Yvette, because I know that it was something that you were struggling with. What would you say? What would you say? One thing specifically that you've done that's changed your approach, and how you think. Is there something specifically that you've done to make self-care a part of every day for yourself?
I would say taking that time to recognize how important it is for me. It makes me feel a lot better. And it is very fulfilling. It's very fulfilling to me. And I feel like it's rewarding across the board, right? It's not just rewarding for me, but it's rewarding for our whole family. They see mom took the time to take care of herself this time.
Right.
So I felt like,
Yeah, you're setting a good example, and you're also being able to be a better caregiver, right? because you're not
Yes.
exhausted, and you're not feeling resentful or not cared for, right? Because you're caring for you.
It's a great, I like to call it an opportunity, right? To recharge, reset, and that's okay. And we can, and that is a win-win for everybody across the board, I feel. So I feel like I really got so much out of that class, the self-care class, and the phenomenal people that were part of that class. And um, I'm hopeful and I was inspired by it, and I want to continue to stay strong and stay focused on those things that are important to me, that my whole family will benefit from.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience, Yvette. I couldn't agree with you more. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. We have to take care of ourselves if we're going to continue to take care of everybody else. I have enjoyed all of you so much and sharing your stories with us. Is there any final thoughts that any of you want to share before we head into questions? All right, well, I think we covered a lot of great information. Thank you all so much for sharing. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what the future is now classes are and self-care matters. The future is now designing a support plan for you and your adult family member is a 6-week live online class series where caregivers develop a comprehensive future planning guide for the caregiver and their adult family member with a disability, all in a small and welcoming environment. Self-Care Matters, Well-Being for the Caregiver is a 2-week live online class series where caregivers learn about practice tips, resources, strategies to improve or sustain their well-being. Future is Now and Self-Care Matters classes are also offered in Spanish. Visit the Caring Futures website at caringfutures.org and join our mailing list to keep up to date on these offerings and to register for classes and more. Also, if you want to continue this conversation, then I invite you to join the Caring Futures Facebook group. It's a private group only for family caregivers and is a safe space for us to share our triumphs and challenges. A link to the Facebook group will be posted in the chat right now. Again, thank you, Nancy, Sheila, and Yvette for joining our Q&A session. We're going to begin the Q&A now. So if you have questions, please type your questions in the Q&A feature and we will answer you directly or call your question to the attention of the group and our guests will answer you directly. If you would like to use the ASL interpreter to ask your question, please raise your hand and request video access in the Q&A. So let's see, do we have some questions? We have a couple. Okay, so Grace Huerta says, there is a new format for the IPP that will include a workbook called About You. It is supposed to include future planning. Felisa, since you're queen for the Caring Futures, can we plan a future topic to learn about the components of this About You guide? And she thanks all of you for your amazing input today. So Julia's going to take that question and answer that. We've got, when will you begin your next series of classes for Caring Future? And Tyler's going to get that. You can go to caringfutures.org to look at the class listing. And then we have one more question here. I work at a day program vendored through 2 different regional centers. At any given time, parents, care providers, and/or children individuals pass away, and I don't think future planning is really discussed. What are resources we can provide to care providers, families to start thinking about this topic? I know the regional center does some planning, but I think it should start sooner rather than later. Okay, well, and I think Julia's going to answer that question, and I'm going to guess it's going to be getting more involved with Caring Futures. Caring Futures classes are not being offered in person as of yet, but we do have them virtually. I'm looking to see if there's any more questions. It doesn't look like, does Caring Futures operate outside of California? It sounds pretty wonderful. Unlike anything that I'm aware of where I reside. Scott, it does not operate outside of California other than you can take the class from anywhere in the United States or even worldwide. So you don't have to live in California to take the class. And there's a lot of things in the class that are very helpful for families all over the United States. We have families from everywhere that have taken the class. Okay, does anyone have any questions for our guest today? Again, we've got some thanks for you guys sharing your stories today. And I think that's it.
Felisa, I just really quickly thought of one of the questions that were asked, that she mentioned there was nothing in place for a sudden death in the family.
Mhm.
Thing that came up this year for me was it's called an advance directive. And I know that that was addressed also in the class, but it's a very quick, easy way to address some of the issues that, or answer some of the questions that a family may have. And it's a booklet. It could be notarized or not notarized. Notarized would probably be better, but it's a fast way to just take care of that.
Yes, definitely to have some direction, because as we know, when those kind of sudden circumstance happens, the regional center may step in. But if you don't have some desire in place or some directive in place, then there's less possibility of you getting what you wanted as a parent, and that person being served getting what they need, because the regional center is not going to know what those specific needs are. But like Grace mentioned, there are some new rules in place and some new laws in place that are going to help families through the regional center better prepare for future planning. But those things don't start until 2025. But Caring Futures is a great place to start in preparing for all of the different topics that come up with those sudden circumstances. So thank you, Nancy. That's a really good point. Thank you for sharing that. Okay.
Felisa?
Yes, Sheila.
Yeah, hi. Okay, one of the things I wanted to mention that we've done for Quinn is once we and we being Quinn and me, identified who was important in his life, we called that an advisory committee, and
Mhm.
I wrote a letter to everybody, talking to them about Quinn's life, what's going on in his life. You're the people that have come up, for him. And in a way, like inviting them to consider what role they might want to have in Quinn's life going forward. And it wasn't an easy letter, to write. And I didn't hear back from everybody. I think I heard back from everyone except maybe one or two people, which was fine because that meant we heard back from about 6 people who said, I feel like I could do this. I feel like I could do that. So it kind of started giving us a little bit of structure in terms of a way to go forward. But anyway, Quinn really likes the idea of having an advisory committee. I don't know if people have that already in place. But it's a good idea.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, Sheila. That our last caring conversation was on supported decision making, and that was the recommendation that she made as well. Is there's a lot, like you said, and you shared in your story. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of people. It takes 6 people, right, to do what you do. Well, we have to look at it kind of from that perspective. Like, who are those people going to be? And the sooner we start searching that out, the better. Right? Because first of all, you need to get their commitment that they're willing and able to do, to help you with that. So having those conversations now, rather than it becoming an emergency, is going to be so much more impactful for the entire family, but mostly for the person that you're trying to serve. An anonymous attendee just said an advisory committee is a great idea. So thank you for bringing that up too. Thank you both for jumping in and sharing your thoughts, because I really appreciate that. There's so many things that we could talk about. We could go on and on. But thank you all so much for being here today, sharing your stories with us. And thank you everyone for attending. We will see you next time. Have a great day, everyone.